Just letting you guys know we got to going back and forth just so we can get everyone in here and ready to rock and roll. All right. So why is the ability to analyze your race important? Well, it's one of my pet peeves, first of all. I know it's another coach, a couple other coaches' pet peeves, but it's the same reason why we like watching baseball and basketball. Could you imagine if a Brewer hit a walk-off home run and at the very end when they're giving the interview, he's all hyped up and they go, "Well, what'd you see? What made you swing at it?" And he just went, "I don't know. I just swung at it." They don't say that. They always say, "Well, I was waiting for a certain pitch. He threw me a fastball. My stance was a little off, so I choked up on the bat." That's what separates good from great athletes. They're able to figure out what they need to do better instead of just being constantly told what to do to get better. Sweet. Coaches can only see the race, athletes can feel the race. So when you guys get out of the pool, we ask you, "Hey, how's that going?" You guys have a very important piece of that puzzle. Like I said, we can only see. If we see, man, so and so didn't kick out far enough. But then you come out of the race and say, I didn't kick out far enough because it didn't feel fast enough, or it just wasn't feeling fast anymore. I couldn't go any further. That's an important piece of the puzzle. It can't just be we see something because that's only half the puzzle. So it's up to both of us to put those pieces of the puzzle together and so we can work on stuff in practice. We each have a piece of the puzzle that we got to work on. Make sure everyone's in. Sweet. And then next, you got to take ownership of your racing. You got to take ownership of your racing. If you don't pay attention to your race and you get out and you just go, "I don't know, I guess it was fine," you're not taking ownership of it. You have to make sure that you understand what you need to do to get better. Like it goes back to what we talked about. Coaches can only know and see so much. It's up to you to understand, "Oh man, I gotta work on my underwater kicks," or my turn was really I gotta work on that in practice. We'll give you the tools to work on it, but it's up to you to use those tools. And like we just talked about, it gives you firsthand experience of what to work on at practice. If you know your turns need to work, you got to work on them at practice. If you need to know your underwaters need work, you got to work on them. If you have a certain catechism that you know you need to work on, it's your chance to work on it. Gives you firsthand experience because when coaches tell you something, yeah, you listen, you understand it. But if you feel something, if you know you got to work on something, that's totally different. So it's really important that you guys know how to analyze your race. And hopefully that's we get to, as we go through this, you'll understand that. All right, make sure everyone's in. Sweet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post this video in the chat. So you guys will have the link to the video. So you guys can follow along. I'd recommend following along. It's going to make things a lot easier for you guys. So we're going to talk about Caleb Dressel's 100 fly short course at the 2018 NCAA meet. We're going to go through some couple things here. We're going to go through a lot of different things. We're going to talk about his stroke count, talk about his splits, his race strategy, his catechisms, and a couple other miscellaneous things. We're going to go through Caleb Dressel's 100 fly, Simone Manuel's 100 free at the Olympics, and then Reagan Smith's world record at the World Championships 2019 leading off the relay. So at the end of this, we're going to kind of run down what we talked about, and then you guys are going to have a chance to submit your races that you want to see analyzed, whether it be a race on YouTube. If you have a race that you recorded, you can send that in and we can talk about that. This is for you guys. We're going to try to make this a little more interactive. This is going to be for you guys to get better at analyzing your race. So make sure everyone's in. Sweet. Hope you guys all have the video, and we're going to start talking about it. So, and as always, if you need to make sure the video loops, you don't have to do all the work. Just right-click it and loop it from there. So I'm just going to let this keep running, and we're going to talk about it. So like I said, this is probably one of the greatest short course races ever done. It's 100 flies about 2 years ago, 42.8. Now, going into this race, the American record, the fastest race ever, was still about 44.0. So not only is Caleb Dressel the first person under 44, he's the first person under 43, which is incredible. He skipped right over it. So we're going to start looking at this race by talking about his stroke count. If you are counting and looking along, the first 25 off a dive, he took about 4 strokes. After that, each 25, he took 5. So the second, third, and fourth 25, he took 5, which is very impressive. So you think about that. Off his turns, he was able to take the exact same number of strokes. And it was 1 less than with the dive. So if you think about it, he took 4 off his dive, and then the rest of the way he took 5. That's incredible. So how did he do that? Well, we're going to talk a lot about this. He kept his underwaters consistent. If you watch the race, he was able to kick out to about 12 and a half, even 15 meters off every wall. The last wall especially was his most important. Everyone else popped to about 10, 12 yards. He kicked all the way out to 15. That's an easy way to make sure that your stroke count stays the same, is by make sure your underwater kicks stay the same. Before time splits, just make sure everyone's in. Sweet. So as you can see, it's coming up his last wall here. He's still kicking out to 15, and he's gone. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but it's just an incredible race. Just an incredible race. And he gets hyped up, fired up afterwards. Great job. So 4 strokes, 5 strokes, 5 strokes, 5 strokes. Just really, really good racing. Then we're talking about his splits. So as you can see, they talk about it. If you're listening to Rowdy Gaines, he's getting all excited. He's going 19.9, 19.9 for his first 50. So he was out in 1999, and he was back in 22.8. Out in 19.9, back in 22.8. Incredible. So like we talked about in previous clinics, I think it was the short course versus long course clinic, the fade, which is the difference between the first and second 50. So his second 50 was about 2.8 seconds slower than his first 50, about 2.8 seconds. So we talked to this at the clinic. The average difference for a 100 fly is about 3.4 seconds. It's about 3.4 seconds. So he was good 0.6 under the average fade. So this is where you guys are going to have to answer some questions in the chat. I would like to hear your thoughts on why you think his fade is lower. So you can type your answer in the chat. Why do you think his fade of 2.8 seconds is shorter, smaller than the average about 3.4? So we want to put some answers in the chat. Why do you think his fade is lower than the average 100 fly people? So feel free to put some answers in the chat if you would like. Give you guys a couple minutes here. Not minutes, a couple seconds. About 30 seconds. Why do you guys think his fade is lower? Kick out to 15 each 25. I like that answer. Don't make me call on people. I'll call on people. His turns. Gabby Blake, what do you think? His turns, copycat. Well, you guys are both right. You guys are both right. His turns and his underwaters play a huge factor into that. Huge factor into that. It also comes back to what we talked about, their race strategy, which we'll get to in a little bit. His fast and controlled was really fast, but it was also really controlled. He wasn't spinning his wheels, and he wasn't just, like we talked about, he wasn't just going for it. He was able to stay under control while going fast. Then it was time to make a move. He made a move not only with his underwaters by kicking out to 15 each, the last 2 25s, but he was able to pick up his tempo. He was able to also pick up his tempo. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this. We'll talk a little about this later. I'm giving away the answer to a question later. But if you're watching this, I want you to watch his last 25. You're going to see something really special on it that you might not see everyone else do. In fact, I don't think you'll see anyone else do it. But like you guys all said, his turns were really good, especially his second and third one. And he's able to keep it consistent. He was able to kick out to 15 on his second and third walls. And he was just able to make a move off his fast and controlled. So you guys are all you're right. Nice job. So now we're going to talk about his race strategy. Here's a chance for you guys to go in the chat again. I want you to talk about when does he make his move and how does he do it? When does he make his move and how does he do it? We talked about him being fast and controlled. I want you guys to now talk about, put some answers in the chat of when does he make his move and what does he do to make it? And I will call on people as evidenced by just me calling on Gabby Blake. So as you're watching the video, when does he make his move and how does he make it? What does he do differently after his fast and controlled? Let's see. Let's put some answers in the chat. Let's see. You guys wanted this to be more interactive. I'm giving you the chance. Let's do it. See who's all in here. I'm going to call in Gretchen. I need an answer in the chat. What does he do differently when he makes his move, Gretchen? Do, 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 do. Off his last turn, last breathing. Paul's the MVP right now. They're carrying you guys. Gretchen, let's see what answer. We're going to wait for you. Yeah, there we go. Puts his head down. Excellent. So, also, but both answers, great. So when he makes his move, perfect timing on the video. He's coming off that second turn. He's going his third 25. He doesn't breathe on his breakout, and he makes his move really by staying consistent with his underwaters, and he picks up his tempo a little bit. Doesn't breathe on his breakout, attacks his underwaters, and he puts it like I think it was the Pauls. Puts his head down, especially on that breakout. So that's when he makes his move. Is that about that third 25-ish, especially coming off that turn. Sometimes making a move just means you're doing what you were doing. Just got to be consistent with it. Got to be consistent with it. And finally, I think the Pauls nailed it. When he does his hunt and kill, he's the only person I think in the world who does this. He does not take a breath his last 25 of the race. He does not take a breath the last 25 of a race. So we're going to watch this. If you're watching on my screen, then when I'm sharing, he's coming off his third 25. He makes a move by kicking out to 15. Doesn't breathe on his breakout. Doesn't breathe the first two strokes. Here we go. Turns. Kicks out to 15. He's hunting and killing. And look at that. 5 strokes, no breathing. Does not breathe the last 5 strokes of his race. So that's hunting and killing right there. He's not breathing the last 5 strokes of his race. Just an incredible race. That's another reason why I think it's one of the greatest short course races ever. It's because he does a great job of not breathing that last 25. The only person in that field who does that. So, we talked about race strategy. We talked about his splits. We talked about stroke count. So let's now talk about the catechisms that we can see. So there's not really any underwater footage. We mostly are going to see stuff that's on top of the water. But probably the biggest thing you can see is how low his breath is. It's how low his breath is. It's just incredible how his chin is just scraping the surface of the water. And he's breathing early with his eyebrows. So he's staying low when he does his breath. Now you're not going to be able to see it on his last 25 because like we've already covered, he doesn't breathe his last 25. So on this is a great chance to look at his snow angel recovery. That last 25, the whole time, his arms are nice and long, and he's really stretching that whole time. He's not bending his elbows, and he's not diving down with each stroke. He's entering nice in front of his shoulders with a nice long recovery. This is a great chance to look at not only breathe with his eyebrows, but also kick in, kick out. So what you're seeing is when his hands enter, he's kicking in, and like we talked about this double explosion, he's kicking out when his hands exit. Kick in, kicks his hands in, kicks his hands out. It's part of also our double explosion. And like we talked about at the coach's corner with butterfly, you want to kick through that breath. So when he's breathing, that's when his second kick is going, and he's really propelled himself forward. Now this is great. His last 25, you're going to see all these except really breathe with the eyebrows. Kicks his hand in, kicks his hands out. Snow angel recovery. It's great. Now, if anyone else sees any catechisms that we didn't mention, I kind of gave away one with double explosion. But if anyone else sees any good catechisms that they want to talk about, feel free to put some in the chat. But this is the big one. We're going to talk about these one more time. When he's breathing, he's kicking his breath forward. It's nice and low, and he's getting his head down quick. His chin's right at the surface. Kicks his hands in, kicks his hands out, and has a nice snow angel recovery. Let's check the chat. Maybe anyone else saw any catechisms. No, no one's supporting the catechisms. Last turn. Like we talked about, it's time to hunt and kill. Kick in, kick out. Head down. Snow angel recovery. Great. It's awesome. So we kind of talked about it already, but now let's talk about his breathing. These are a couple miscellaneous things we're going to talk about. Now, we already covered how his last 25, he doesn't breathe, which is incredible. But, Rosie, I'm calling on you. Does he breathe on any of his breakouts? Does he breathe on any of his breakouts, Rosie? Put the answer in the chat, Rosie. Not on the last one. He definitely doesn't on the last one. Does he do on any of the other ones? No. So, Rosie nailed it. He does not breathe on any of his breakouts. Remember, he went 19.9 the first 50, and he went 22.8 on his second 50. And he did not breathe on any of his breakouts. But what I want you guys to watch is the adjustment he makes going into his turns. So we talked about being able to kick out to 15 off each wall. How does he do it? How does he do it? So he's able to get enough air to kick off the wall each way. 15 meters off each wall. So let's watch how he approaches his turns. Now remember, we talked about it. He's only taken 5 strokes. The last 3 25s. So if he's not breathing on his breakout, we're down to 4 strokes. So he's only taking about 4 strokes after his breakout stroke. So I hope what you're watching is, as he's approaching his turns, he is breathing into his turns, but they're fast and they're low. And like we talked, that's getting him enough air so he can breathe, so he can kick out 15 meters. So if you're watching my screen, he's on his third 25, doesn't breathe on his breakout, breathes on his second stroke, doesn't breathe, breathe, breathe. So on his third 25, the 25 before he went a full 25 underwater, he went no breath on his breakout. And the next 4 strokes were breath, no breath, breath, breath. Now he's able to get away with this because he's going really fast and not taking a lot of strokes. So if you're in here and you're a really good underwater kicker and you need to kick out to halfway at 15 meters, I would recommend breathing on those last couple strokes, as long as they're fast, to make sure you can have a good kick out. So that's what we talked about. Able to breathe off the breakouts, get enough air to kick out to 15 each way. And let's see, who am I going to call on now? Simone, I want you to grade his turns on a scale of 1 to 5. Simone's going to grade his turns on a scale of 1 to 5. And if you notice, I want you to see what's different about his first turn than his last 2 turns, Simone. So grade his turns on a scale of 1 to 5. And then talk about his first turn compared to his last 2. 4.5, I would agree. And Simone, what do you think his first turn is compared to his last 2? Is it better or not as good? First turn is not as good. You are correct. And how come? I hope Rowdy Gaines isn't giving you the answer with his commentary. First turn is not as good. You are correct. Why do you suppose that is? Boom! Simone nailed it. Well done, Simone. His first turn, he kind of glides into a little bit and loses a little bit of his momentum. So he does not accelerate into that first turn like he does with his other turns. Well done, Simone. Nice job. I'll let Caleb Dressel know that Coach Simone tells me he's got to work on his turn. Nice job. So that was the hunter fly. Like we talked about his splits, his stroke count, his race strategy, some catechisms, his breathing pattern, and grading his turns. These are all things that you guys can think about or feel or talk about with your coaches after you race. So if we can do this, watch Caleb Dressel do it, we know that and can analyze it. We now know that you guys can do it as well. It's a lot harder when you're swimming it and not watching on repeat, but now that we know you have the skills. So the next race we're going to watch, close this out. I'll give you guys the link. The next race we're going to watch is Simone Manuel's 100 free at the Olympics. So this is when she won Olympic gold. I'm going to put it in the chat for you guys to follow along. Boom. You guys can follow along the video now. We're all ready to go. So kind of a similar idea. What we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about her splits, her stroke count, her strategy, some catechisms, her breathing pattern, and how would you grade her turns. So, Simone Manuel swims for Stanford, swam high school in Texas, fantastic swimmer. So, make sure everyone's in here. Sweet. First thing we're going to talk about is her stroke count, just like we talked about with Caleb Dressel. So, her first 50, remember we're in long course now, her first 50, she takes about 17 and a half cycles. 17 and a half cycles. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. So we're watching the race here. 17 and a half cycles, that first 50. Her second 50, she's taken 19. 19 cycles. So very similar like we talked about with Caleb Dressel, off her turn, she's not taken that many more cycles. She's only taken 1.5 cycles. That's only about 3 more strokes coming off the turn. So it kind of goes back to what we talked about when our short course and long course racing. You got to be able to stretch out a little bit more that first 50. And that second 50, you got to start picking up that tempo a little bit. I believe we also talked about in our freestyle clinic the idea of space and strokes. In a long course pool, you got to be able to stretch out just a little bit more that first 50. You can't just spin your wheels like some tires in snow. You got to be able to stretch it out, and then you'll be able to pick up your tempo. That's what she was able to do really good job, really nice job of. She kept it long and strong. Then that second 50, she was able to hold on to her length. She didn't just take a bunch of short strokes like we talked about. She only took 3 more strokes off the turn, but she was able to pick up her tempo just a little bit coming off the turn. Now, she did tie, which is great. It doesn't really happen a lot with the Canadian Penny Alexiak. So, stroke count, very important. 17.5 cycles, then came back in 19. So now let's talk about her splits. She went 52.70. 52.70. Long course. Win the Olympic gold medal. So she was out in 25.2. Out in 25.24. She was back in 27.46. So that fade, remember fade once again, is difference between second 50 and first 50. The fade was about 2.2 seconds. So 2.2 seconds. Now the average fade, like we talked about, in the long course 100 free is about 2.3 seconds. So she is dead on. That is perfect. Now, the coast, you're going to answer this question. How do you think she nails her second 50 so well? Is it by accident? Like we talked about, the average fade is 2.3, and she went 2.2. So the coast, was that an accident? Did it just magically happen that she went so close to the average, what everyone else is doing? What do you think, the coast? Was it an accident? Was it an accident that she went so close to the average 100 free second 50, the average fade? What do you think, the coast? Someone help her out. I have a feeling the coach needs some help on this one. Who's all in here? Who can help her out? Will help her out. No, thank you, the coach. She stretched out. Yeah, you're right. It's completely not by accident. Does anyone remember our 850s set that we did where you tried to go the second 50 of your goal 100 time? Well, I bet that Simone did a lot of 50s long course where she was trying to go 27 point, what'd she come back in? 27.4. I bet she did a lot of 50s trying to go 27.4 breathing fours. That'd be my guess. When you get to that level, nothing's by accident. Even when you get to our level, nothing's by accident. So I bet she did a lot of 50s going 27.4 breathing fours. So we're going to talk about a race. Nice job, the coast. We're talking about a race strategy now. So we're going to watch. I want you guys to go back to the beginning of the race. And I want you to compare her fast and controlled to lane 3. Compare her fast and controlled to lane number 3. Lane number 3 was the top seed, one of the top seeds. Sorry, she's in lane 3. Kate Campbell, lane 4. Watch Kate Campbell, lane 4. She's the number 1 seed. I want you to compare her fast and controlled to Kate Campbell, who's in lane 3. So we're at the beginning of the race. If you're watching my screen, she's about to start. So compare her fast and controlled to lane 4, Kate Campbell, the number 1 seed. And also, if you want a little trivia, if you were at the freestyle clinic, lane 6, I believe, is Sarah Soistrom, who's actually the world record holder in this race. So lane 3, it's lane 3 is Simone, who we're watching. Lane 4 is who we're comparing her to. Compare their fast and controlled. Now, lane 4 does a great job of staying nice and long, but I think she spun her wheels just a little bit too much. She was a little aggressive those first 20, 30 meters, and she wasn't able to accelerate into her turn as well as Simone. And you can see it towards the end is that she's kind of keeping her tempo the same. She's not able to make a move off the first 50 where she was kind of going for it a little bit. So you can kind of see here, she's hurting a little bit. She just doesn't have that pop that she had. Her kick is going real away. She's lost all the white water behind her, and she wasn't able to keep it going. So she was a little bit aggressive that first 50 with both her kick and with her tempo. She was able to keep it long, but she wasn't able to keep it as long and as controlled. So, okay, Will, now you're up because the coach nailed her question. Where does she begin to make her move? Where does she begin to make her move, Will? What did she do really, really well? I kind of gave the answer away just a little bit, talking about Kate Campbell. Where does she begin to make her move? Simone Manuel. Off the wall. You're darn right, Will. Great answer. So she does a great job of accelerating into her turn and coming off that wall. And first 3 strokes are nice, quick, and fast, but she's also able to build off of that. Like we talked about in backstroke, in short course, the first 3 strokes, you want to be fast and explosive. Long course, you want to be fast and explosive, but you want to be able to build off of that. So if you notice going into her turn, she doesn't breathe the last 3 or 4 strokes. And she really, pop, 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 she attacks the wall, gets her feet over fast, and she comes off that wall with a good underwater, and her first 3 strokes set the tempo for the rest of the race. Really nice job. Now, Luella, you're going to ask this last question. When she hunting kills right about now, if you're watching my screen, does she breathe? Luella, does she breathe coming off those last 15 meters, attacking the wall? Does she breathe those last 15 meters? When it's time to hunt and kill, does she breathe? What do you think, Luella? What do you think? Does she breathe those last 15 meters? She thinks no, she thinks correct. So if you take a look, if you're watching my screen, she does not breathe the last 15 meters. Everyone else except lane 5, who ironically she tied with, took a breath in the last 15 meters. She and Penny, who tied for Olympic gold, both did not breathe. They put their head down and they just went pop, pop, pop right into the wall. It was great. Great swimming. That's how you win Olympic gold medal right there. Or just have a really good race. Really good job. Nice job. So we're going to talk about some catechisms. So freestyle, there's a lot of good ones that we can see, even though it's sad there's no underwater footage. I'm sure we could find some. So the first thing we can see is that she has one goggle breathing. When she's breathing, everyone in this field has really good one goggle breathing. But when you see her swim, you're only seeing one side of her face. She's not breathing up to the ceiling. She's really doing a great job of just keeping it nice and low, like we talked about, breathing out of one side of your mouth. I wish AJ was in here. AJ, if you're watching this later, this next one's for you. She's doing a great job of holding her line. You're not seeing her wiggle. Oh, it's a great underwater shot right there. You're not seeing her wiggle side to side in her lane. She is nice and straight. Her back is nice and dry. She's not wiggling side to side. She's not worming her way through the water. She is nice and holding the line the whole time. Remember, hold the line, also called string theory. Hold the string nice and tight from your chest to your hips, and you're able to keep that steady the whole time. She's not too loose. She's not too tight. She's doing a great job of holding that line. Next catechism that we can see really well is she has a nice, strong, and steady kick. She always has white bubbles behind her, and it's constant. When she's breathing, it's there. When she's not breathing, it's there. You can see it behind everyone. They're doing a great job. Kick strong and steady. Nice white waves behind them, white bubbles. And when it's time for her to make her move and accelerate, and when it's time for her to hunt and kill, it's staying there the whole time. It's staying there. She actually picks it up a little bit going into this turn, and she picks it up when it's time to make a move and hunt and kill. Does a great job keeping that kick strong and steady. And lastly, when she's breathing, we talked about one goggle breathing, and she is snapping that breath. She's getting her breathing, and she is snapping that head right back into position. Looks great. Kick strong and steady. Snap the breath. Holding the line. One goggle breathing. Now, I'm going to ask someone. Let's see who's in here. Who have I not called on? Alex Frick. I want you to say one more catechism that I missed that I kind of mentioned. One catechism that I missed that I kind of mentioned. She's snapping her breath back into what? Her head was what? Give you a pretty nice hint right there. What was her head? Head was steady. Winner, winner. Nice job, Alex Frick. Yes. The entire time, her head was steady and level. When she snapped her head, it was nice and level. Nice long spine, nice long back. Nice job, Alex Frick. And once again, let's talk about her breathing pattern. Her breathing pattern, as you can see, first off, she's not breathing under her breakouts, which is great. There's only 2 of them, so you better not. Now, her breathing pattern is a little bit different than ours. She's breathing 4s, but after every 4, she breathes 2. So she will go 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2. Now, why she's able to do it? Well, she's a little bit bigger. She's 6'3" and probably a little bit more muscle than we do. But also she's able to do it because her breathing is so good. It doesn't mess up her stroke, and she's able to snap it back down. If your breathing is good enough, it doesn't mess up your stroke, you can add in a couple 2s every once in a while. But you got to be able to go fast. You got to keep your kick while you're doing it. But for the most part, we like to breathe 4s because you're going fast enough that you don't need to breathe 2s. And we're not at the world-class level where our breaths are good enough yet. So she breathes 4 and 2 because she's able to, because her breath is so darn good. And like we talked about with her turn, if we had to grade it, I think it's a 5 out of 5. I think she does a great job of accelerating into that turn, kicking into it, and then attacking that breakout. Now, I mentioned something that hopefully you guys have seen a couple times, and if you're watching my screen, she's coming into her turn. She takes her last stroke, she bows into her turn, she gets under her wave, But the most important thing I think she does is that as she takes her last stroke, she's still kicking. I can't tell you the number of times we're in a race and it's going great, going great. We're attacking the wall, we're accelerating, it looks great. We've taken our last stroke, we're bound a little bit, and we stop kicking. Just like we talked about in butterfly, you kick, you're through the breath, you need to kick through your turn. So as you're approaching your turn, take that last stroke, bow into the turn, get under your weight, but make sure you're still kicking. Attack that turn just like you would your breath, just like you would every part of your stroke. So if you're watching my screen right now, she's attacking, puts her head down, boom, boom, kicks into the wall, and flips over. So make sure that you are accelerating into your turn through your turn. Through your turn. We talk about accelerating through the turn, not accelerate to the turn. There is a difference. Kick through the turn. So, like we talked about, we've gone through Simone Manuel. You guys have done a great job answering the questions. We talked about her splits, her stroke count, how she's keeping it nice and long. She's attacking her breakouts. She's not breathing, and she's able to build off the bat with her tempo. We talked about her able to make that move with her tempo, her hunting and killing by putting her head down. We talked about her catechisms, her breathing pattern. So great job, you guys. You're doing a great job. I hope you guys are liking this a little more interactive. We got one more race. I hope I'm keeping you on your toes with who I'm calling on. So now we're going to talk about Reagan Smith and her 100 back at the 2019 World Championships. So she's leading off a relay when she does this. Now remember, you can set any kind of record leading off a relay. So there's the link. I just put it in the chat. We're going to watch Reagan Smith lead off the relay in world record fashion. So they're going to be in lane 4. And the race starts right away. Right away. So you're going to be able to see it. It's going to be awesome. So Reagan Smith, she's in lane 4. She's in the pink suit. Similar to what we've been talking about, our pattern, we're going to first talk about her stroke count. So her stroke count is very similar to Simone and Caleb Dressel in the fact that it's pretty consistent. She was 18.5 cycles on the way down, and she was 20.5 on the way back. 20.5 on the way back. 18.5 down, 20.5 the way back. So she's taking about 4 more strokes that second 50, which is about normal. If you have really good underwaters like she does, like you can tell if you're watching the race, she kicked out to about 13-ish meters. If you have good underwaters in a long course 100 back, you should keep it within about 4 strokes or about 2 cycles. Should not have to spin that second 50. Keep it long and strong and attack that second 50 with a little bit more tempo, and you're good to go. So she does a great job of keeping it nice and consistent. So once again, we're going to talk about her fade. She went 57-57. A number so nice, you got to say it twice. 57-57 to set a world record. She's a junior in high school, by the way. So her first 50, she was 27-7. She brought it back in 29-8. Kind of like we talked about Simone. I bet she's done a lot of 50s long course where she's tried to go under 30. So her fade was about 2 seconds, about 2.1-ish seconds. So the average fade, like we talked about, 100 back, is about 1.6. So she's a little off. So here's a good question for our backstroker in here, Gretchen. Gretchen, you're on the clock. My question to you is, do you think she took it out too fast? Do you think she took it out too fast? Now remember, the 400 medley relay is the last day of the meet. It's like a 10-day meet, so it's the last day of a 10-day meet. Do you think she took it out too fast? Gretchen, do you think she took out the 100 back a little too fast? No, I agree, Gretchen. I don't think she did. I think she was juiced for the relay. This is her first big international meet. So yeah, I think she was a little excited. I think she had a very good first 50 of her race. I think she did a great job. So I agree with you, Gretchen. I don't think she took it out too fast. Now the fade may tell you that, like, oh, she was a little off the average. I think that could be a little misleading. Remember, numbers never lie. They don't also tell the whole story either. So I'm with you, Gretchen. I don't think she took it out too fast. I think she did a very good job of being able to take it out fast, control, be able to bring it back. So, race strategy time. Will, I'm going to ask you now, What makes her fast and controlled so good? We talked about it at the backstroke clinic, was specifically about her, and maybe in the short course versus long course racing clinic. What makes her fast and controlled so good compared to everybody else? What is she able to do that first 50? He's thinking, folks. Will is thinking about what she does really well that first 50 to be fast and controlled. Hmm. Hmm. Alex Frick, help your boy out. Help your dryland partner out, Alex Frick. What is she able to do that first 50 really well? If you want to watch the video, you can watch it on my screen. What does she do really well that first 50? Hmm. I'll give you a hint. I guess I'll give you the answer. Her tempo. Her tempo on her fast and controlled. Not only is it fast, but it's under control. It's faster than everybody else's, but it's under control. She's not just spinning her wheels. She's able to grab the water, hold on to it, throw it to her feet, better than anybody else, faster than everybody else. She's able to have a nice fast tempo, but she's making sure she's not spinning. She's not spinning her wheels. So, Amy, you're going to answer this question. What makes her make a move so good? And if you want to throw it also, where do you think she begins to make her move? It's very similar to the freestyle one if you'd like a hint. When does she, when does she begin to make a move and what does she do? What does she do, Amy, that to make a move? And what does she do really well? What do you think, Amy? Hmm. She's not on here. Did Amy leave? Amy. All right, Rosie, since you're answering her, you answered. You're gonna answer for her. What does she do with her make a move? We're gonna come back to that. We'll talk about her hunt and kill. Rosie's gonna answer what she does to make a move really well. All right. So for her hunt and kill, it's very similar to we talked about in freestyle, but it's like we talked, but she's on her back, so she doesn't breathe. She doesn't have to worry about her breathing. She picks up her tempo, and she that's when she really starts to attack that last 25 when she hunt and kills. So here we go. If you're watching my screen, she's about to start that last 50. And that last hunt and kill, she does a really good job of really kicking into overdrive with that tempo. Keeps her kick up the whole time, and she's really able to pick up her tempo those last 25. So, Rosie, let's see if you're able to answer the question of make a move. Glitch, I think we lost some people. She increases her tempo. Nice job. Yes, she's able to increase her tempo, and she really attacks her turn. Really does a nice job attacking her turn. Comes off, starts attacking her tempo. Real nice job. So, now we're going to talk about some catechisms. So, the ones that we can see really well right off the bat, if you're watching the race, and she keeps her head steady the whole time. We always talk about balancing a cup on your forehead. She's able to do that really well. Her head is nice, steady, and level. Her hips and her legs are up. And this nice shot above the water You're able to see her whole suit kind of out of the water. It's not sinking low. She's in that nice kind of kayak position where her shoulders are rounded and she's nice and high on the surface. Nice and high on the surface. Her hips and legs are up. Her kick is nice on the surface. She's in that nice kayak position. She's a strong, steady kick the whole time. Nice and steady, nice and steady. When her hands enter, it's going. And like we talked about in Coach's Corner, she's able to shrug and roll with her tempo really well. It's also called entry, finish, snap, shoulder together. So when she is swimming, you're really able to see her do that shrug and roll. She shrugs and rolls her shoulder, drives it into the water, catches through, snaps it together. So she's all connected through her body. She's not swimming in a box. Nice, strong, and connected. And we're going to ask the guy who got us started, Jack Paul, the Pauls, how would you grade her turn on a scale of 1 to 5? Jack, the Pauls, how would you grade her turn on a scale of 1 to 5? 4.5. Stingy, my man. Stingy, Pauls. I would give her a 5. It is so good. We talk a lot about getting into your turn, connecting the last stroke of backstroke to your freestyle stroke, and getting under that wave all together. We talk a lot about that. We work a lot on that. So connecting backstroke to freestyle into turn, making sure there's no pause. And like we talked about with Simone Manuel, kicking through the turn, not kicking to the turn, kicking through the turn. Connects her back to her free, bends in, has a great push off, real good swim, world record swim. So that was it for the race analysis. So my question to you guys is, how did this go? Did you guys like this? Do you guys feel like it helped you start to look for more things in your races, see some other races? Did you like me calling on you guys? I'd prefer you guys answer. But did you like that we were able to be a little more interactive? So please put your answers in the chat if you thought, yeah, I like this, or maybe try this, or do something like this. Because remember, this is for you guys. We want you guys to get better at analyzing your race, stay interactive with us, and most importantly, just finding ways to get better. So we're going to keep trying to do stuff like this. Now, if you noticed, we didn't do any breaststroke races. Mostly because we haven't done breaststroke clinic yet. We'll do that on Monday. But I want you guys to now find races, whether, like I said, whether they're yours or whether they are on the internet. You guys now find races and sign up for them, and we'll analyze them together. So in the email that I sent out to everybody about half an hour ago, there's a link at the bottom. It says sign up here. It's going to take you to this page. Actually, I'll put this in the chat. It's going to take you to that page, and you're going to put your name and what race you'd like us to do. You can put the link of the race. You can say who swam the race and what distance, and anything else you'd like us to focus on. I want you to talk a lot about the catechisms or talk about the race strategy. So it's up. So this is on you guys now. I'm going to send this out after the clinic's done. Send this out on Monday. Send this out a lot next week. That this is for you guys to find races to do. For us to do. This is for you guys. This is to be interactive. This is meant to be fun. Meant to help you guys get better so that when we get back in the water, and that time is coming, folks. And when it's time to race, we don't get those, hey, how'd that go? Duh, I don't know. I thought it was pretty good. Get better at analyzing your race so that you can work on the stuff in practice like we talked about. Thank you guys so much for being here. Really appreciated it. Stop presenting here. Hope you guys had fun. This was awesome. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the weather outside. See you guys soon. Keep voting in the best race contest. And let's just keep having fun, folks. We'll see you guys soon.